Hey everyone. So today we're building a calculator using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. The main goal of this video is to build a calculator using as little JavaScript as possible, have it work properly, and for there not to be any exploitable vulnerabilities. Right off the bat, I'll tell you we are using Eval, so there is an exploitable vulnerability that we'll have to handle. As you'll see later in this video, we are handling it with no issue, and I would love to see in the comments if there's a way that you can figure out how to exploit it, because I can't. So now that we know what we're building, let's dive into the code. Alright, so here's the code. I wrote the HTML and CSS already. So we have a nice calculator here. We have a bunch of buttons for all the inputs that we need for a calculator. We have the calculator screen, which this top black bar at the top, and we're using CSS to make it like dark mode, kind of a terminal green and dark mode. I think it came out pretty cool, but we're not here to write the HTML and CSS. We are here to write the JavaScript. So let's jump right in and start writing some JavaScript. So we have our empty file here. We know we're going to have to add an event listener to listen for a button click on any of these buttons, and we have our values set for each button. So let's write a quick selector for all the buttons and map through it and add an event listener. So let's go all buttons, document dot query selector all, and then we're gonna select for all the buttons. So that is that, and then let's go here, all buttons dot, actually not map, we're gonna for each one we're gonna add an event listener, and let's see, button dot add event listener. We're gonna listen for a click, and we're gonna create a function to change the value on the screen to the button that was clicked. So let's use handle event as the function name. So now let's create that function, const handle event, and then we need the event. Wait a minute. We need the event, and then let's just do a console log. A console log, and log the event dot target dot value to get the value that is set in HTML. So let's give that a shot. Let's open up our console and let's click 1, 1. Cool. So we got plus, minus, multiply, divide, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, decimal point, an all clear. Let's see, what's the value of, empty string. So empty string is for all clear, and then equals is an equal sign. So that's the value of all those buttons. So now let's add another selector to get the screen. So we can add these values into the screen. Document dot query selector. Let's select for a class. The class name is calculator screen. Oops. All right. So the class is calculator screen. So we're selecting for calculator screen. And then let's see, when we get there, we want to set the screen dot value to the event dot target dot value. So right off the bat, we should be able to, every time we click on a button, it should write to the screen, but it's gonna override because we're just setting it to the value. So it'll just override. So it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, you know, whatever we're passing to it. Empty string just goes back to the placeholder, which is that faded 0. And let's see, from here we need to let's concatenate it instead of replacing the value. So we got 10 plus 100 equals, and the equals doesn't work, right? Because right now we're just passing all these strings and concatenating the string. So we're concatenating 1, 0, plus sign, 1, 0, 0, equal sign, and this is all a string. Now, instead of adding a long if else or switch statement saying if the value is this, use this value and do the math, I am going to use eval. All right, so to use eval, let's change this up a little bit. Let's add a new function called add all params, and what this will do is it will accept the event, but then it will add the current value that the screen is showing and the event value. So we'll do handle event, and then we'll pass screen dot value and event dot target dot value. And then we'll just have to switch what the event handler is calling. Add all params. Okay. So now, hold on, one more thing. Here we need to do the accumulator and the current value. So the accumulator is the value that's on the screen, and the current value is the value of the button that we clicked. So then, once we have that, we can use these values for an if statement. So what we want to know is the current value equal to the string equal? If it is, then screen dot value equals eval, and then we can just do ACC. So what that is going to do is, if we have 1 plus 1 on the screen and then we hit the equal sign, we're going to put 1 plus 1, that's the value that it is a string in the accumulator, and we're going to run it through eval, and that's going to turn 1 plus 1 string into 1 plus 1 in JavaScript, and it's going to give you the sum of 1 plus 1. All right, now we need to do one more thing. We need to change this to cur, which is the current value from the button, because we no longer have access to event. We have access to cur instead. So we'll do that. Then we also need to add a return here so we don't run this code when this if is true. And then we'll save that and do 1 plus 2 equals 3. Okay. So now we have this. I do want to clean up the code just a tad. So let's add a function for changing the screen. Instead of just doing screen.value and doing it that way, let's create this function change screen. Let's actually add the accumulator here. This is going to get called from add all params. And then we're going to do the screen dot value here and have it equal to handle event. So we're just cleaning this up just a tad, and then we can, let's see, yes, and then we can just return this value. So return this value, get rid of this other return. So we'll just return this value here, and then we can return ACC plus equals cur. So there you go, just cleaning it up a tad. And right now, as you can see, I'm clicking on all clear, and we are not clearing the value. So let's add another if statement to clear the value. So if the current value equals empty string, then we want to return empty string. All right, that's pretty simple. Okay. Why isn't that working? Ah, okay. So we're calling all params from the event listener, but we need to change handle event to be change screen. So that's why it wasn't working. So then you got 1 plus 3 equals 4, all clear. So we're clearing it. Now, there is another if statement we're gonna need to add, because if you hit the equals without any, with an empty string in there, we get undefined. So to avoid that, we are going to, let's see, to avoid that, we are going to move this up. Yeah. So we're going to move this up, and then we're going to add a check that if current is an empty string, or if there is no ACC, which means there is no value for ACC, and cur equals, and cur equals the string of equal sign, then we just want to return an empty string instead of undefined, because we know that if there is no accumulator, then running eval is not gonna do. If there's no accumulator and we click the equals, then eval is not gonna do what I think it's gonna do. It's just gonna return undefined because there is no values in there to do any math. So let's clear that. So then if you hit, oh, I should have saved it. So there you go, saved it, cleared it. You could hit equal sign all you want, we don't get undefined. Okay, cool. Now the fun part. Now we're going to show why eval is dangerous. So if I go in here and I inspect the screen and I add some JavaScript in the value, so we're going to do console.log, because that's all I know what to do. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's something cool we can do here, but we'll just do a console log. So we add that JavaScript there, and then it's still a string. It's no issue. I mean, it's just JavaScript code, but in a string. So it's not, we're not running any JavaScript yet. But once we hit this equals, we're gonna put JavaScript in here and run the eval, and that's a problem. So as you can see, it console logged the string that we added there, but it could be any kind of JavaScript that runs there, and that's dangerous. So in order to avoid that happening, we are going to write a little function that only allows the values that are in these buttons to be added to the screen. So for that, we are going to add a function called isAllowedChar. So isAllowed characters. So the character that we're adding has to run through this check and say this is an approved character, then then allow it to be added. If it's not an approved character, then it will not be allowed to be added. So we are gonna make a quick list, an array of all the values that we are allowing. So we're gonna do the operation values first. Let's see what else. The multiplication. There. The multiplication, and then an empty string, because we're allowing the empty string to clear the screen. The equals, and then 0 through 9. Now, so these are strings. So originally when I was building this, I thought, let me just map through an array and get the index and do it that way. But as I was writing it, I realized that was more code than just typing this out. Since we're only going 1 through 9, it's not that much manually typing. So looping through and getting the values actually is more code than just typing out this way. So now we got all the buttons, that the values of the buttons that we have, right? So we got the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, empty string, the all clear, the equals, and then we got 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and actually it looks like we're missing a decimal point. Let's just add it. Let's add it here. And this way. Oh my goodness. There we go. Decimal point. So there, now we added decimal point as well. So now we have every button value that we have a button for. And then we're gonna okay, and then we're gonna run through and is allowed, then this way. So right. So we're gonna run through and check and see if every character that we pass to this function is in the values, in this array of values. So we're gonna return a true or false statement, but we are going to get the characters, split them up. So if you have one character, then it does it once. If you have multiple, it splits it up into an array with every character that you pass, and then it checks that every single character has its value inside of allowed characters. That includes, let's see. All right, so that will give you a get your character. So let's say you have 1 plus 2. So if you pass 1 plus 2 in here, it's going to create an array with 0 index being 1, plus being the first index 1, and 2 being index 2. And it's going to loop through those characters in that array and check that every character is in this array of characters. So that we will add into another if statement. So we'll add if ACC, if ACC is set to a value, and is allowed character did not passing ACC to it, then we are going to return an empty string. So the idea here is that before we get to eval, we want to make sure that these characters are in the approved array of characters. If they are not there, we're just going to return empty string and get rid of all the characters on the screen and start over. So basically what that means is if you try to put any JavaScript code that doesn't have every single character in the string in this approved character array, then it will return an empty string and it will not allow that code to be ran in eval. All right. Actually, hold on. This does not need a split. Just like that. Okay. All right. So now let's try to hack it again. So let's go here and do console.log hacked again. Add that there. Go back to the console and hit the equals. And if this check fails and it doesn't work, then this will actually run. If this works, then it won't run. So you hit equals and it didn't run. And you're like, sorry, no, you can't hack my system. You were denied. Okay, so you know, we all learned JavaScript and learned how eval is, but in reality, we need to understand, what does eval do? What is its power, and what is that power able to do, right? So it's a very powerful thing, but it could be dangerous if you don't protect the values that are being sent to eval. So in this code, we are using eval, and it's cool, right? Like, you have a calculator, it's not that much code, you're able to just pass the values. You know, you look at a calculator and you're like, why would I have to do an if statement and say, if the value of 1 equals 1, then do this thing? Instead of that, you just use eval, and it uses the value of 1 and the value of the operator, and now you got a working calculator. But like we're doing here, you got to protect it and make sure that only the values that are supposed to be passed to it are being passed to it. So this was a cool little project that I put together as I was thinking about a calculator, and I thought I'd share it with everyone here. So if you like this video, please like it and subscribe for more programming videos. And also there'll be some affiliate links down in the comments, as well as links to the code that we wrote here will be down in the description as well. So have a great day, and hope you enjoyed this video.